So yesterday, right, that's the day that I recorded the review that you're about to watch and a couple other ones. If you see me wearing the same thing, they all happened the same day. Anyway, so did that yesterday. And then today I went out because one of my local running groups, we were going out because the Asics guy was coming down to demo the Nimbus 27. So I went to go check that whole thing out. And since that was the shoe of the day or whatever, it seemed like the right choice to break the Nimbus 27s out, right? So I did that. And I'll give you a quick little rundown of how that whole thing went. But first, just to give you a little backstory of like what all went into it or whatever. So it's a 3 mile route that we had for today, right? We did it 2 times. Me and 2 guys went out the first time early before everybody else showed up just to make sure everything was clear, which was a good thing because it ended up not being clear, not much anyways. So a lot of ice and snow still on the ground from previous things in the week or whatever. So there was that. But past that, everything was fine, right? So running around in that, it was good. Things were good. I had no complaints about it. It was a little bit slower, right, than I would normally go. But like I was saying in the review, I think I said it in the review. Hopefully I did. Otherwise, this won't make sense. If you're running in something with a little bit extra cushion, right, it's a good thing. It's a good thing to have if you're going to be going a little bit slower, right? So that's kind of where I like to have stuff like this because it works out for times like that, right? So that played out just exactly as I thought it would. Also, because like I said, there was a lot of ice and stuff out there. I was talking about the Asics hybrid grip that they have on here, and I don't know if it's just that good or if it's just I'm not good at staying on my feet. But either way, I stayed upright. Everything went fine, so that was cool, right? So yeah, it was a slow and steady pace, but it worked out pretty well because again, the extra cushion. The second time around, right? That's when we went out with everybody else and we did the thing for real, right? So that one significantly faster because I knew like what to watch out for and that whole thing. So it was again 3 miles and it was about a 7:40ish minute pace, something like that, 7:40 per mile, whatever. So or, yeah. So anyways, we're doing that whole thing, and I will say this: these shoes felt pretty solid like throughout the whole thing. You know, they've got not a whole lot of bounciness to them, which I don't want, right? So I was glad about that. They felt kind of how I just would want them to feel, right? So you got just a little bit of rebound in there, just enough to kind of get you through it without being crazy bouncy. And even though the shoes, you know, they are technically heavier than some of the other things that I've been working with a little bit lately, it doesn't really show, so that's a good thing as well. Upper felt really good. Like I said, the room in the shoe was really good. So all in all, things have worked out pretty well for the Nimbus 27. This is only the first day out, right? I'm going to use them, put some more miles, and I'll get back with you later. But so far, first impressions, rock solid. What's going on, people? So, review number 2 for the day. And this one, like I said in the last one, got to go all in because it's a new model, at least to me. Maybe to you too. Maybe not. I don't know. Maybe you're just watching this one because you already like the model and you just want to see this particular color. I get it. I don't do that myself. I just kind of buy things and hope it works out. But you're probably taking the smarter route, and I respect that. Down there on the side of the box is a picture and some words or whatever. It might be useful, it might not be, but it's already on the screen, so whatever. Moving on past that, though, let's go ahead and knock out this review, huh? This right here is the Asics Gel-Nimbus 27 in the Luxe colorway. Very much the same as I just said about the last one, and we'll say again in the next one. Let's go ahead and start this thing with the bottom. Down there, across the bottom, what you're looking at there is definitely cleaner than that last one. But either way, it's kind of plain and kind of big, right? It looks very wide to me. It looks clown shoeish, honestly. Not a huge fan of it, but it makes sense. And one thing I'll throw out there, because again, this is the first time talking about them, there is a little bit of labeling down there that you probably missed, right? Possibly anyways. So you have the AHAR thing down there. That's going to be like the grip, you know what I'm saying? So as far as like preventing you from slipping and falling or whatever, it's supposed to be really good. Is it? I don't know. But it's down there. So you got that happening. And then the other thing was going to be the Asics, the AHAR is more for like just overall durability. But the Asics grip is going to be for the traction. Kind of had that backwards for some reason. But either way, yeah, the Asics grip is the same thing like I was just saying as far as like the traction. Whereas the AHAR is just going to be the durability over time, right? So how's that going to work out for you? I honestly don't know. I haven't run a pair of shoes into the ground ever, so I just can't say. But I trust Asics. They do good stuff and they seem like good people. On the midsole here, looking at that, right? So what you're seeing in there, kind of like you saw on the last pair, got a nice little gradient action thing happening. I'm a big fan of that. I guess I just like gradients on shoe midsoles. I'm starting to realize that. So there's going to be that for you. As far as technology going on down in there, right? On the back end, you do see that it has the pure gel to kind of give you those nice impacts when you're landing, you know, softens the blow, so to speak, under your foot, which is a good thing. And then the Flight Foam Blast Plus Eco is what you see on the front. It doesn't have all that written out. It just says Flight Foam Blast Plus. But either way, it's the same sort of foam that they put in last year's model. They're just doing it again this year because I guess if it worked then, it'll work now. Off of that same note, though, before we go any further, I was looking these up on the Asics page just to see, because they usually tell you what's new from the last model to the new model, right? From the 26 to the 27 in this case. And they said that, oh, now we've got like Flight Foam Blast Plus Eco. It's our lightest foam and blah, blah, blah. And we were able to put more of it into this one than the last year model, the 26. And it's still going to be the same weight or even lighter, whatever they said, right? So I'm thinking like, so it's the same foam, like, but you didn't change it? It's just, you're saying because it was light then, it'll still be light now? I'm not sure what they're getting at there. It makes it seem like they didn't really change anything, you know? And then the upper, they said that they made it just a redo, right? So it looks to me like it's more just a difference in look than like a difference in mesh itself. So it seems like there's not a whole lot that's going to be different here, which could be good, right? So if you liked last year, you should like this year. But at the same time, if you have last year's, you probably don't really need this year's if they're so similar, right? Going only by like the technology put into the shoe, it may not be very necessary to like make that jump to the next one. Now, if you're one of those people that's like, oh, but I see a color of the 27 that I like and I'm ready to just push these 26s to the side, I get it. I'm right there with you often. So I'm not going to look down on that. Definitely not, right? But I just put that out there as something extra to think about. Let's move on and get you some other pictures in here. So, looking at these and whatnot, right? It's not a whole lot going on, much like the last one. It's a decent color, I'll say that. And I might like this overall upper design, stitching wise, like the most of the three that I have here to talk about. But I kind of like the shoe itself the least, so, but more on that later. So anyways, yeah, not a whole lot happening. You can kind of take it in for yourself, but there'll be a lot of other pictures. So we're gonna dig in a little deeper here, down here on that upper, right? So what you're looking at, to give you some extra like pictures and whatnot, I guess. So starting with the toe box area, right? You got like the Gel-Nimbus 27 logo, not logo, but the text down there for a little bit of branding, which is cool, right? You move on to the middle-ish area. You got the Asics decal logo, whatever you want to call it, on the side. It's going to be like a nice plasticky sort of overlay slapped down on there. Very similar to what you saw on, if you saw the Platinum 31 review I did, or any of these other Luxe shoes, same deal, right? And then moving on back to the side here, standard heel cup stuff. And you got the little pull tab on the back, right? Which is pretty handy. I will say that. I looked down on it at first, but it's actually pretty nice, right? And it has a little bit of 3M on there, so that's cool. I always like the 3M, right? And while we're on the back end of the shoe, right, it looks very much like it has in the past for the most part, at least in my mind. But I don't remember if this Asics print was down there on the bottom at the midsole piece there. I'm not sure, honestly. I don't remember at all. But moving on past that, just to give you a quick look at the interior side, right? So there, it's not as good looking, right? Because they don't do the gradient thing. Everything else is pretty much the same, right? So there's that for you. And past that, we're going to move on, jump back over to the front piece. The laces here, lacing system style, is pretty much similar to what you've seen on a lot of things recently. You know, they're not changing anything too much because, again, they seem like they have something that works, so they're making changes that matter, nothing just cosmetic just for the heck of it. So pretty fine to me. Standard laces, nice, soft, flat, brown all the way through. Nothing crazy about it. Behind that, the tongue, super stretchy. I do like that. It's like a nice mesh material, right? But again, you have that extra stretchability in there, and just in case you need it for, I guess, if you have big feet, maybe? I don't really know. But it's there and it's doing that. Then at the top, you got a little bit of this Asics logo happening, which is always a good thing, right? Just because it breaks up the design just a little bit. So Asics 27. So nothing you probably didn't expect, right? Nice and thin upper for that tongue. So I do like that. Jumping on over to the inside. This is where they have that little, I don't even know what you want to call it. It's almost like a satin sort of look to it. It's got this nice little swirl going on. I'm a big fan of that. Like they started doing that like with the 25 and I've just been into it, right? So that's what's going on the interior. Jumping down just a little bit, you see the insole, it's all blacked out, right? And then you have the Asics A down in there. So that's what's going on, and that's going to be on both shoes. So sometimes they do like the A on one and then like the carbon footprint nonsense on the other, right? This time around, they're not doing that, right? So it's one of those things where you would expect in some ways to get like a little something extra special down on there because you're paying this premium for the Luxe pair, but you don't. They did that with the premium, with the platinum, but not with these. So whatever, it's on the inside. You're not really gonna see that so much anyways. So that's everything, right? As far as the visual goes, the one thing I will add in, which you probably noticed, you can't always see it from every angle. At least I can't, because it's in my hands and just you have to look for it sometimes. But there is a little bit of a blemish down here on the front piece. Not a huge fan of that, right? I mean, you pay however many dollars for something. You kind of want it to be nice and pristine and flawless, right? So I'm not thrilled about that, but I'm also not going to sit here and act like it matters more than it does. It's a pair of shoes, right? If it really bothered me, I could send them back, do a return, whatever, exchange. I'm not doing it because I'm not taking the time out to do it. So how much does it really bother me? Not a lot, but it is a thing that I noticed and don't like, right? Not going to overlook that. Anyways, that's everything for the visual piece. So let's talk about my personal thoughts, which I've already kind of said a little bit, but I gotta say them again because it's that part of the video. Personally, right, I wore a pair of the Nimbus 25s the other day. Well, I only have the one pair, and I caught a glimpse of myself in the mirror with these, and man, I do not like the way these things look on me, right? I don't like the way they look in general, for the most part. Just like the shape is so big and weird, but you can't argue with like the results and whatnot, functionality of them. Like they're doing what they're supposed to do, so that's fine. But this pair here, right, I look at the color, and like I said about the last one, it doesn't look exactly like I expected it to. I was thinking it was going to be a little bit brighter in some ways, and when the light hits it in the right ways, it does have like more of like a brighter look to it, sure. But just kind of when I took them out of the box, I was a little bit underwhelmed. So you add that to the fact that it's a model that I already don't really like, and I was not feeling great about this purchase. But I did want the set, right? And having the set meant buying all three, obviously. So here we are, and I have them. And again, even though I don't really care so much for like the visual component of the Nimbus 27 or any of the Nimbuses for the most part since the 25, I will overlook that because they at least do well where they're supposed to do well, which is when you're running them and stuff, right? So for that reason, they'll get a pass. But again, there's a lot of shoes that look better, so it's a thing to keep in mind if you're out there looking for different shoes to get on your feet and whatnot for your runs and stuff. But still something worth considering, right? Because all in all, they are pretty solid. So I guess I should probably talk about that, right? Because that, like I was saying before, even if you don't like them, it's still like something to consider. So I'll tell you why, though, because again, got to be honest with you, right? I tell you how I feel about stuff, but at the same time, I'm not going to look down on it overall just because I don't visually like it. You know what I'm saying? That'd be kind of dumb to me. So anyways, let's talk about some sizing and then get out of here. Well, then we'll move on to the Kayanos. Sizing wise, right? I bought these in a 9.5, like everything else. True to size fit. It's working out just fine for me. If you're curious about like, do you need a bigger size because like you have bigger feet or something, they do make wide versions of them. So go ahead, head on over to the Asics webpage, type in Nimbus wide, and you'll find them. I think they do probably just about every color that you have in the standard also in wide, right? I think. But I don't really pay that much attention, honestly. So either way, you don't have a whole lot of room. Going back to the standard true to size thing, you don't have a whole lot of extra room in there. You have just enough right? It feels a little bit wide in some ways, but they have a wide base to them. It gives you extra stability and whatnot as far as like side to side. So I get it. Front to back, these do have a 10 millimeter drop. They also sit the highest of the shoes that I'm talking about, right? So you got that whole thing going on. So you might feel like your feet or your toes are a little closer to the front in some ways, just because your heel is going to be a bit higher than you might expect it to be. So I guess that's something to also consider, but it still felt fine true to size for me. Either way, midsole wise, right? Midsole here, like I was saying before, this is supposedly the most Flight Foam Blast Plus that they put into a shoe. So it gives it a bit extra weight, right? They do come in at almost 11 ounces, which is quite a bit in some ways, but it gives you a lot of extra cushion in there, right? So you got that happening. It's very, very plush. I'm not a huge fan of that. Well, it's not as plush and bouncy as the Novablast, but still has a nice like sink in sort of feeling to an extent, right? And I'm not a big fan of that. I prefer stability personally, so that's why I'm more of a Kayano guy. But if you're going for like a run with like a distance to it, you might want something like this overall to kind of back you up, because it's just going to feel more comfortable over that duration, to me more so than the Novablast 5, which is good for like, you know, if you want like a nice springy speed sort of thing. But if you're going to be out there for a bit, you might want to lean towards these, honestly. So it's just something to think about, because like I said, I want to give you guys something to walk away from with this, even though like I'm not a huge fan of it personally. They do have their pros, right? Oh, and the upper, they retooled it. Like, I honestly can't say anything about it. It feels fine. So that's all I got on that. So I think that's everything that I need to say. And a lot of this will be covered again, because I'm going to do a quick video of just these three, right? So if anybody just wants the overview, there will be that. But whatever. From me to you, have a nice rest of your day or rest of your night, whatever's wherever you are. I'm going to move on, talk about these here Kayanos real quick, and then that'll be the end of the shoe reviews for today. Then I got what, my quarterly, I don't know, my best of 2024 and something else, I think. All right? I don't know, that's it. Yeah, cool, nice. Later, people.